Welcome back to the Dallas Meetup Dime, where we get straight to the value in 10 minutes or less. I'm your host, Carson Gibbons, and today I'm joined by the president and CEO of Dallas CASA, Miss Kathleen LaValle. Kathleen, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning, Carson. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm very happy to be here.
I've got so much to get into with you. We recently had a great visit with one of our executive organizers, Aaron Witherspoon.
Yes.
We're featuring you in the next cohort, but before we get to all of that, I would love for you to just tell us, our audience, a little bit more about you and your start here in Dallas.
Sure. So we were just talking about I'm not a true native, but I've been here since 1979, so kind of a native at this point. So I came here, I went to law school at SMU, and then began my career as commercial litigator and got into a regulatory practice and practiced law for 3 decades. In the meantime, I became familiar with this amazing organization, Dallas CASA, which stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. I joined the board in 2002, became the board chair in 2006, and then actually applied to become the CEO in 2014. So a radical turn in my career. One of my board members said, "I understand you fell and hit your head. You know, what are you going to do when you come to and realize what you've done?" But it's been just nothing but a positive experience.
So they thought you were a glutton for punishment, going further with the board and wanting to go full-time and chair.
Absolutely. I think of it as kind of the redemptive phase of my career, having been a litigator for decades.
So was this the main not-for-profit that you were giving back to in your time as a litigator?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the model of CASA, where you have a volunteer come in and be trained by professionals, you know, who are experts in social work and child welfare, and then to be assigned by the court to a child or a group of siblings, and to really focus on that child and let the court know what are the child's needs. Are they safe? Do they feel safe? Are they secure? You know, what an incredible role. I mean, what an honor to have that position in the place of a child during a really frightening and uncertain time for a child who's been a victim of abuse or neglect. So I think the idea that we bring the community consciousness into, you know, the highest risk civil litigation you can have, you know, looking at parental rights. I just think the model is really kind of radical in a way that we don't necessarily appreciate.
Will you set the stage for the problem as a whole, like what you address and maybe some of the raw numbers for who is in peril that you're currently servicing in this market?
So we have since 2019 been able to accept appointment to all child welfare cases in Dallas County. So we're the largest urban county to have a CASA program that can serve the entire need. So over that time, we've served about 8,700 children. And what the need is that you have a child who comes into a system, they're re-traumatized by being separated from their home. And what you want is for that child to feel a little bit less forgotten, to be less afraid, and to feel like they have someone in their corner, you know, a champion who's going to stand by them and make sure that you know, their voice is heard in a time when they're not really sure they're being heard. And so it's just a protection that we try to build in, a safety net, but also more than that, it's a nurturing connection. You know, you want to have an adult who has a caring connection with each child, so that they feel like if something does go wrong, you know, that there's someone they can go to, they can confide in, and say this is not right.
On that piece about nurture, I'm wondering about kind of your North Star metrics, what you report back to your audiences, because it seems like some of this would be judged in terms of EQ, or like, were you there for the child or not? Did you have a pacifying conversation in a moment of need? What are the raw metrics that you also look at in terms of, I guess, preventing them from going down bad paths or what have you?
Well, it's such a great question. You know, it's very complex because a lot of what we do can't be measured in a standard way. You can measure the activities, the frequency. We visit a child every month. Okay. So you're going to be, you know, paying attention to those kinds of activities that lead to good outcomes. And so we look at, did we perform some kind of educational advocacy for the child this month? What do we do on the legal side to help the path towards permanency continue? And so, you know, we'll look at, did the child get assessed for special needs in education. We'll look at, are they in therapy? Do they need a different form of therapy? Do they need eyeglasses? I mean, it's just, you really are, it's the full gamut of the needs of the child, both to recover from trauma, but also then just to be on a positive path forward. One of the real risks of a child in foster care is that they give up on themselves.
Oh.
They think, that they are less than, in some sense, that this is somehow their fault, which obviously it's not.
Right.
But that's one of the most important roles I think our advocates perform is really, looking at that child and saying, you can dream, you can have a future that's brighter than the one that you've imagined, and really just to give them the confidence that we're going to give them the support they need to keep moving forward.
Just instilling and maintaining that self-worth almost at times.
Absolutely.
So I was struck, we got acquainted through Aaron Witherspoon. I had the opportunity to serve as one of his references to become an advocate.
I didn't know that.
And I was really excited to see him go down that path because the reputation of the organization preceded even meeting you. I knew it was quality, and a lot of quality folks had gone through it, and the retention and everything seemed crazy from an at-will volunteer perspective.
Right.
When you joined the board, what was the landscape? Like, talk about, I guess, percentage to goal of being able to service this population and where you are now.
Sure. So in 2002, we were serving about 15% of the children. 1.5. And at that point, we really were being, in most cases, appointed pretty late in the proceeding. There had already been a decision made about whether or not parental rights would be terminated. Was it safe for the child to go home and be reunified, which in our world is the home run, what you really hope can happen. And so fast forward about 2012, the board made a commitment to grow substantially to be able to serve 100% of the children. At that point, we were probably serving about 40% of the kids, and when I started, we were 40-some% of the kids. That would be in 2014.
Okay.
And then in 2019, we were able to increase our capacity to be able to accept 100% of court appointments to child welfare cases.
Does that strictly come down to like the P&L, or what did you enable that allowed that to happen?
Well, it's a number of components. One, we built a building that we could train volunteers in. Previously, we had been like borrowing conference centers from our board members' organizations to train, and you really can't scale up unless you have that kind of internal resource. And so that was very critical. And then we really had to raise awareness of the opportunity to become a volunteer with Dallas CASA, because it is totally dependent. Fulfilling our mission is totally dependent on you coming in off the sidelines and not being a bystander and saying, I'm not just going to be outraged, I'm going to be engaged. And so that's really what it took, was being able to grow the number of volunteers we had who were making just such a real and serious commitment, but continuously tell us what they get back from it is just amazing. That they may have worried about, do I have the right skill set? I'm not a parent yet. Whatever the voice inside your head is saying about, why maybe you should stay back. And then you come in and you realize you were born for this. And I think that's really satisfying for us to see an individual grow in confidence, grow in autonomy, and in their experience. We ask a minimum of 1 year, but the reality is we have 2 volunteers who are coming into their 30th year of service as a CASA volunteer advocate this year. And that kind of blows my mind, but it really does just become part of the fiber of who you are.
That reminds me, going back to our first conversation, did you do something with the tenure aspect with either board members or advocates? Didn't you lengthen that or take away? How did you do that? Because were there term limits or something like that initially?
So, we're an independent 501c3 nonprofit, but we have a membership in the state organization and in the national organization, and both of those require in their standards that your board have term limits.
Okay.
And so, we wanted to be in compliance, and so we have a term limit. You cannot serve more than 10 consecutive 3-year terms.
Okay.
And then you have to take a day off.
Okay.
Before you're reelected.
But your retention amongst these advocates is insane to me. It makes me think that they must get in there realize that they're really doing the Lord's good work, so to speak, and helping outcomes of people's lives.
There aren't that many opportunities where you can see the impact. You know that that child's anticipating your visit. You can see the look in their face, how they brighten when you walk in. And, they're just incredible stories about our advocates, going and seeing children in a new foster home because they've been moved. And, the 5-year-old says, how did you find me? I didn't think anyone knew where I was.
Oh, no.
And that's why we do it. I mean, that's why we do it. And the tenure is amazing. I mean, the average is 4 years. And, compared to this kind of a nonprofit role, that's extraordinary. But we have so many who, have served more than a decade.
Do you have average age on these advocates?
Oh, I love this question. Okay, so this is what I'm incredibly proud of in terms of the Dallas community. We had last year 58% of our new applicants to become volunteer advocates were in their 20s and 30s.
Really?
I would not have been focused on this substantial kind of a really high impact role in my 20s. I mean, we were all thinking about building our careers and our families. And so I think it's extraordinary and really gives me just great hope that we have so many younger adults who are willing to make this commitment. And then we have about 22% of our ongoing volunteers are in their 60s. And so you can see how they don't just come in early, they stay, or they come back. And that's, because life does happen more to a 20 and 30-year-old. They get transferred, they move, they fall in love with somebody in San Francisco. Things
100%.
happen differently than someone who's approaching or at retirement. And so the combination of those two, I really think, is what gives us sustainability, is that we're able to get younger adults involved, but we also, continue that engagement throughout the adult life.
We're excited to continue to support Dallas CASA and to get to platform Kathleen and her team August 13th at Texas Live for DallasMeetup's nonprofit cohort. Knowing maybe the little that you know about our community, tens of thousands of kind of laptop class practitioners across Dallas, what's your ask? How can we most help?
Well, I think, having conversations about Dallas CASA, believe it or not, is really powerful for us. We do billboards. We do some advertising. We do a segment during Wednesday's Child on WFAA. We do a little PSA. But the reality is that the majority of individuals who come into an information session, which we offer once a week, virtual, to hear about the role, see if it was a good fit, they tell us they came because of either a direct referral from someone who's currently a Dallas CASA volunteer or an indirect referral. Somebody's sister is an advocate and can't stop talking about how powerful a role it is and how much impact you can have. And so conversations about Dallas CASA and the opportunity to really take on what I think is a really premium volunteer role, that's what's most important to us. So talk about us, post about us, like us,
Absolutely.
and check out the opportunity to become a volunteer.
The information sessions, are those online at dallascasa.org, I'm assuming?
Yes, and so you register and that will get you the Zoom link.
Okay.
And then it's just less than an hour and you usually get to hear from a volunteer advocate. And, they're going to tell you that they're a very busy person, like, more than 85% of our volunteers are full-time employed. And hopefully they'll look and say, if I can do this, so can you.
Well, now I want to go to one. Kathleen, thank you so much for your time. Go to DallasMeetup.com to register for the nonprofit cohort to meet Kathleen August 13th. Thanks.